Hold on a second. Sorry. That was a
That's
false
okay.
alarm.
Guys, if I seem like I'm blanking out, it's because I have like serious lag.
Okay.
Okay.
So
we are live now. Okay. Take two. We are live with the filmmakers from the amazing film that you just saw, Uncle Peckerhead. Woo!
What's up?
And we have David Littleton, who played Uncle Peckerhead.
hello, Portland.
Matthew John Lawrence, who wrote and directed. And Jeff Riddle, who played Max and wrote most or all of the music that we heard in the film.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being here.
And Wiki, our production designer.
Yeah, production design, wardrobe, and a co-producer, Wiki Mendoza.
Yay.
Hey, Wiki.
Hey. Excellent. So, how are you feeling? Did you watch the stream?
I did not. I've watched the movie about 1,000,001.
Okay.
I lived it.
I could recite it.
He knocked it out.
But it really does mean a lot that that we were a part of the fest and y'all got to watch it, because it's a dream to actually be able to reach people.
So we remember you. Some of you out there in YouTube land may recognize Matthew John Lawrence's name, and also Jeff Riddle from the short film we played the first year of Portland Horror Film Festival called Larry Gone Demon. And that was also a horror comedy with a demon that won our Funny Bone Award that year. And so now you are back with is this your first feature?
It's actually my second feature, but I usually say it's a debut because my first feature was not good.
Okay. You're just retconning that whole thing. This is your first feature. Excellent.
My first feature.
There we go.
How long? So was Larry Gone Demon, because Jeff, you were in it, and you were also, I believe, wearing a Duh t-shirt in that film.
That's true.
Are you meant to be the same character? Is this the same universe, or was it just kind of a?
Matt can feel it's woven together.
It is the same universe. Like we also did a music video for Jeff's old band, The Holy Mess, where we kind of infused the Duh universe into that music video. So Duh doesn't. We never see Duh and Larry Gone Demon, as if you were one of the few people who saw it. But yeah, I mean, Duh is like this kind of like, it is in the same universe of these kind of like fake real bands that kind of like are in all of the films we make.
Nice. So was Larry Gone Demon kind of did that help you make Uncle Peckerhead? And was that the intent of Larry Gone Demon? Was that kind of your, let's make this short film and see if we can make it into a feature?
Yeah, like with Larry Gone Demon, it was the first time that I had really done kind of big practical effects and makeup film, like a film that I wanted to make, but I never had enough money or the right resources or connections. And I hadn't had Uncle Peckerhead written, but I knew that's kind of this type of stuff I wanted to do, and I wanted to use that as a calling card. So that definitely, when like securing certain funding or showing people like, hey, trust me, like join our crew of weirdos and freaks in making this film, by showing them that, they could kind of get a feel for the type of stuff we wanted to do.
So how many, have you made a lot of short films and then this feature film, or was this kind of like your opus magnum in terms of having to work with a cast and crew and doing pre-production and all that stuff?
I mean, this was by far the most ambitious thing that I'd ever done, or project I'd worked on, with people. And I had produced, in between Larry and this film, I hadn't directed a film besides Jeff's music video and another music video, as far as like a formal like short film or narrative. I hadn't done something between those two, but I produced like a number of short horror films and a couple of short like dramatic narratives from other people that ended up working on Uncle Peckerhead. So I was really kind of just learning from a producer's standpoint, like what it would take to kind of, because those projects kind of increased in scale and scope. So it was kind of a great training ground to make Uncle Peckerhead.
Nice. And how long was the process? Like, how long did you have for pre-production, shooting, and then post and editing?
It was pretty quick. I mean, quick for a feature film, or what I've heard for a feature film, at least from pre-production to production. Like basically, we shot the film in June of 2018, and like late summer of 2017, I had basically had a version of the film that I liked. And then it wasn't until we went to another festival that I kind of like, I think it was in November, Wiki and I went to a festival with the film I had produced. And basically it was kind of like, that was the 0 hour of like, are we going to do it? Are we going to secure everything we need by this time? We knew in June of 2018 we were going to do it. And then we did pre-production for like 6 months. And that included like Jeff writing the music, recording that music, like all of those things kind of happened in a pretty short period of time of like a half year or less than a half year, casting everything.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So I would like to, let's talk about the music. And there's actually a question in there about the musical venues. But Jeff, you are in a band.
Yes,
Yes.
that's correct. Yeah.
Are you also currently in a band?
Yeah, I have a band called $500 right now. Yep. So,
and you're in Philadelphia.
I am in Philadelphia. Yeah.
Okay. And let's see. So writing for Duh. How different is that music from the music that you would write for your own band?
Well, you know, I guess it all is like coming out of me, but I don't know. This was kind of the first time that I've written with any kind of direction, and it wasn't, I don't know how to describe it. It wasn't really like make this song sound like this, but you know, it was sort of like Matt gave me like the script and like the scenes. And yeah, it was also just like a wild time in my life that I was writing this music too. So it just kind of all kind of fell together perfectly. And yeah, gleefully nihilistic, as we like to put it. So yeah, it just kind of fit with the tone of everything. But yeah, I'd say that is an overall vibe of what I'm naturally inclined to write about, you know. So,
and then did you also write the music for the rival band? And what was the inspiration for the douchey rival band? That was from question from Matt.
Matt and I co-wrote that song together.
Yeah, Jeff wrote all the music and I wrote the lyrics because I feel a deep connection with Shiloh.
Yeah. So Matt, when we were trying to write the butt rock song for Dominion Rising, so another quick shout out to Bill Orender, drummer of $500, and played drums for, the recording. But yeah, we were trying to come up with a formula for making a, shitty rock song. And he kind of broke it down for me. He was like, it's like, if you really listen to it, the music's not as terrible as you think it is. He's like, but as soon as the haircut grabs the microphone, it's all downhill from there. So we kind of went based on that philosophy.
Okay. Well, I think you nailed it.
And when it gets to, sorry, right. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say with Ryan, like his biggest motivation, or the videos I would send him, is I'd send him videos of Jared Leto from 30 Seconds to Mars getting interviewed. And that's like the only thing I said was just watch these videos, because like he would say shit that you're like, surely this person can't be a serious human being. No, and that's no offense to people like 30 Seconds to Mars, like 30 Seconds to Mars, but if you hear him talk in an interview, it is deeply offensive.
As soon as the haircut grabs the microphone.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask though if Shiloh's character was based on a real life person. Like,
it's like if Jared Leto wasn't good looking or talented, but still had the same, like, just an insufferable, like, lacks any self-awareness of how they sound and how they're perceived by others.
And is Ryan Conrath in real life in any way, shape, or form remotely like that character?
He is a human dream in real life.
He's like the nicest, smartest. He's a professor. He has like a PhD. He's like a kind human being, a deeply feeling human being. So I think he's able to, I think for him it's fun, and I don't want to speak for Ryan, but I think what was so fun is he explored kind of a person that doesn't even come close to him, like a total departure from his personhood.
It's like what he makes fun of.
Yeah.
Like manifested.
He was also our UPM. So that
he was also our production. He was our like unit production manager. So he was wearing both hats, like insufferable prick and make sure the cart was with the wagon. Or
I'll tell you what, man. I saw his UPM hat was not pretty after the first week. He did a great job, though.
So you guys wear, it seems like you all kind of wear multiple hats. And is that it seems like that's I guess a benefit and a blessing and a curse of independent movie making. Do you feel like there were times where that hindered you?
Oh, of course.
Or did you just kind of work around it?
Yeah, I mean, like Wiki alone, right? Like did production design and wardrobe, and she was also a co-producer because she had duties even above and beyond those two entire departments. And that's
that was demo girl number 1.
She also has a role. And she designed all of Des merch, and with everybody like. You know, David, even beyond playing the titular character, I mean, when you're on a micro budget production, and we didn't ask this of David, David just kind of understood this, you know, you kind of buy in even beyond what you're initially asked to do of like, he'd be one of the people that's like, you know, carrying amps and like moving stuff in, or if like there's a rainstorm and we're shooting outside is like grabbing equipment, gaffing stuff like cords, cables. So it's like, in a way, it's like crushing because like for many of us, we're wearing like a half dozen to a couple dozen hats, and you're trying to juggle all of that stuff. But what's so great is when people are fulfilling so many roles, like you really know they're committed and you can trust them implicitly, and you don't have to like pause or say, you know, can they handle this, or do I trust them, or can they be? This is like a really important part of the movie that we're going to live and die by in this moment. And you just know, like, I don't have to have any pause in asking them or trusting them in the process.
And did you all know each other before? Like David, I know Matt and Jeff, you knew each other, but did David come on for this role, or did you know each other before?
David?
Yeah, I was. I'm new to this, but now I refuse to leave. Yeah, I was down in Florida doing a play, and I saw the casting call, and I'm a huge horror movie buff. Like I've been to Sitges as just a tourist, just because I love them so much. Yeah, no, I saw the casting call, and I recorded the diner scene and sent it off and just hope for the best.
And I should say, like as David mentioned, he's never leaving, and nor would we want him to leave now. This band of freaks. But David, what was so great about like David being such a godsend is we had, at the time in which David sent his audition, we were at a moment where we had already kind of been like, we're starting like June, I forget, 7th. And it was like a month or two, or maybe 2 months out, and we hadn't found Peckerhead. And we had done like for a micro budget, an extensive casting call where like we spent really like 2, maybe 3 days just on meeting Peckerheads. And
about 35 years doing that.
Yeah, I mean, no one even came close. Like when David sent it, we were kind of like, what the fuck are we gonna do? Like it all hinges on this performance, on this character, on this charisma, like all of this stuff. And thankfully David sent it because we were up Schitt's Creek.
Well, he really does. You bring this wonderful sort of humanistic side to, I mean, this demon slash monster slash killing.
Just a second, I have to stop you there. Thing. He prefers the term thing.
Ping. I'm sorry.
Yes. No, like, it's at the end of the day, it's not his fault, and he's just trying to get by the best he can, and along the way, maybe try to find a little connection. But yeah, you have to kind of approach it that you can't like play it like he's a monster. You got to play it like he's a person who's in a particular situation. He's just another guy doing the best he can to get by.
Is he in your mind? Is he a little bit of a metaphor for a certain type of person that?
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, I think the whole situation. I think we've all, I think, at some point faced like making a choice of to go a particular route or not, and how willing are we to sell kind of our souls to get to a particular place. So I think to that point he's a metaphor. But no, I think I mean, you can't really as an actor approach it as a metaphor. You have to just think of it as a very, very specific kind of person in a very specific situation.
I mean, in all seriousness, in writing it, and I think David brings a lot more humanity than I could have ever thought, in a good way, is like in writing that character, like, and again, like not to get like hyper political or anything, like one of the initial inspirations in writing it was like a lot of editorials at the time. It was right after Trump had won, like talking about, the forgotten Trump male, like a working class, older white guy that felt kind of left behind, and it was willing to like take this kind of nihilistic bent because they felt that they had been left. And that's kind of like the initial thought of with Peckerhead is like, these are the reason why it's called Uncle Peckerhead is these are like our uncles, or they would call it like, these are your uncles. These are like, the person you're arguing with at the table. And it's this idea that they can be very charismatic and they can be very loving and they can be very like, you can talk about fucking baseball with them and it's cool. But they're also kind of doing something that's like deeply destructive and is like really hurting. It's like having a direct effect on hurting people, and you are connected to that hurt. And I think David
and benefiting.
Yeah, I'm benefiting from it. And I think David like also brought so much more humanity and like had so much more kind of charisma than I could have imagined for that character. But that was like the initial kind of inspiration for writing a character like that. Is somebody that you really like, but you also know that they're just like doing something so deeply destructive and hurtful.
Mm-hmm. It's like the racist uncle.
Yeah. I like to
you
call
kind
him
of give him a pass because he's your uncle, but like,
yeah.
At what point do you decide like,
exactly?
Okay,
you decide to be like, dude,
just a real secret piece of shit.
Yeah.
Okay. And that was one.
Actually,
that was one of the questions. Was what was the inspiration for Peckerhead? So that was part of it. But then they asked, "Were you a roadie yourself? Were you ever a roadie?"
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was never a roadie. But I think the thing that kind of clenched, I'd like to think, the performance is the stuff that's on the page. And then once I had committed to the part, I actually went out at like 2:00 in the morning and killed a guy on the subway and ate it.
Okay.
And that kind of.
Did you also eat his guts and go just
Yeah. And so I had something that I could really pull from.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And David didn't even he didn't charge us as that wasn't like on his hourly like time card. He just
No. I did that on my own.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I've never been a roadie, but I have been a cannibal.
And I didn't tell anybody about it because it benefited me in the end.
Yeah. How about you, Matt? Were you ever a roadie?
No, I mean, I was never a roadie, but one of the other inspirations for writing the movie is when I was in my 20s, I was in a band that had toured, and and also like Jeff is definitely a more prolific touring musician than I, and just hearing stories of him and friends I had grown up with that were in bands is like in film, it's always romanticized, like the touring life, or even like, you know, like Motley Crue, just these storied adventures of, you know, just kind of being on the open road. But in reality, it's like like micro budget filmmaking. It's a completely soul crushing. 23 hours of the day, you're like just bored and sad, and everything's shitty. And you're playing like, you know, the back of like a Mexican restaurant. You know, like you're not playing these concert halls or these stadiums. And you're like just sleeping in Walmart parking lots, and it's really not fun. You have like occasionally like a fun show or you meet some great people, but for me, I wanted to make a movie about like touring isn't like a grand adventure of like epic proportions. But Jeff, I'm sure like you can speak to.
Yeah, I mean, if I ever had any questions about my my life choices, he just pretty much described them all in a nutshell. So. Yeah, he's pretty spot on.
Oh, okay. Frank Campbell asks, this question's for David. What is your background in theater? What's your background in theater like, and was working in a horror film a big departure from what you usually do?
Yeah, pretty much. My background is that I studied theater as a kid. And then I moved to New York, you know, after college, and I was there like maybe 3 months, and I said, no, this is crazy. This is for crazy people. I'm not doing this. And so for 30 years, I was a graphic designer. And I worked at like a bunch of big corporate companies. And then I ended up working in television, doing title design for a company called World of Wonder, who does RuPaul's Drag Race and a bunch of other shows. And that kind of got the bug going.
Uh-oh. Everyone froze for a second.
Bug's gone.
Peck's taken off.
This insane production.
Close to midnight.
David, you froze for a minute. So can you just rewind to, like what was the word?
You said you got the bug going.
Yeah, the bug going.
Oh, sorry guys. That's God's way of saying shut up.
No, David.
No, I was just gonna. So I got the bug again. I did like one little show, and then I did a whole year of just crap. I did a spoken word play about a school shooting. That when I look back up. When
that
I
sounds
look
like
back
Henry
on,
Rollins.
I had friends come and they said, did it actually rhyme? I mean, it was like intense. But then I got this
amazing.
What a time for it to freeze again. I just leaving us with the hot potato here.
It was like on the cover of the New York Times. I mean, it was like in every paper and for about 2 weeks.
Wait, you froze again. You have to back up because what we got was
you were talking about the Shakespeare,
the
right?
cover of the New York Times.
Yeah.
Don't tell us how the play ended.
So anyway,
and
I've been lucky to do some great theater. So that's my theater background. And then how is that different from doing a horror movie? I mean, in every possible way. But like I said, I'm a huge horror film fan, and it was I mean, as Matt's talked about it, sometimes it was tough, but also we kind of became a family, and you do anything for family, and I was happy to do everything it took to get the best product we could. So I would do it again in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I mean, to David's credit is, as a director, like one of the people that's kind of really pushing it. When you like, David's like a real fucking actor. So like when you don't know this person and they're like a real like this is kind of their gig and they're really good at it, and like you worry that like the what you feel in the movie is kind of also behind the scenes. It's kind of like a motley crew of people that you do worry when you don't know somebody, like, man, I hope they're not a prima donna. And David never gave that impression, but when you don't know somebody, you're like, man, are they going to be able to hang on like a set like this? and David just came into the fold in such a seamless way that it was such a joy.
Thanks.
Nice. So there's a lot of blood in your film, and blood on a lot of the actors. What were those shoots like? And did you kind of do them spread out, or did you try to do all the blood scenes at once, or?
Yeah, I mean, those were the final days, really. Like our last week of shooting, we shot for 3 weeks, 6 days a week. And the last, I think, like 3 or 4 or maybe 5 days were the effects heavy scenes, both in that it gave our effects artist, Jared, some time to, a couple additional weeks to prepare, because we were kind of on this accelerated schedule. But also just, in terms of like you're shooting fewer hours of actual footage, and, there's a lot more setup and a lot more prep and a lot more makeup time that you need to kind of bake into the schedule. So, I mean, like, as I'm sure many or some people that have been involved in independent horror productions, that's also like some of the most like shit your pants moments of like, even when Peckerhead rips the metal head, spine and all from that kid. I mean, that's like a one and done. So it's like, if we don't get it, if there's like soft focus, if the compression unit that's spraying the blood, it doesn't work at first. I mean, we don't have another head in the spine. 1, because we can't afford it, and 2, we can't afford to set it up for another couple hours. So like that speaks to both how amazing Jared and his partner Sean were in being like so on top of their game. It speaks to the camera department and being so on top of their game. It speaks to the actors on like not breaking from that moment, and really waiting until we say cut, even if there's like blood in their eye and like up their nose, and they're like they can't breathe. It's amazing because like as a director, you're supposed to be this kind of like the person that's kind of keeping the ship steady and is this calming force. And in my head, I'm just like, if this doesn't fucking work, like we're fucked. Like this is like the big moment. This is one of the big moments of the film. So yeah, I mean, it's a crazy way to shoot, because like you feel like you're living and dying, and everything hinges on those moments, because that's like for horror audiences like something that you want to give them the red meat. But yeah, I mean, it's like when you have no money, you're like, man, we don't have like another 4 bodies to, fuck up.
But when you get it, I was just gonna say, sorry, Wiki. When you get it, it is absolutely exhilarating.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like when you only have one shot and somehow you get it done, it's like crazy thrilling.
The one thing I will say from a wardrobe perspective, and for people that are interested in like filmmaking and production design / wardrobe, it is a nightmare, because you really have to keep track of like the pre, like during and post like wardrobe for the same outfit. So you basically have to have like all of these different states, and except for like those like last scenes, we were shooting like the before and the after consequences in totally different days. And so it was me and a PA, and it was like, let's not forget, like, what state is it? And I don't know if y'all have noticed, but Uncle Peckerhead wears the exact same outfit, but every single scene had like a different little stain. And so you have to be like, okay, it's like bloody outfit number 4 pre. And so you have to like make sure that like stain is in the right position. And so from a wardrobe perspective, it was quite a challenge, and I had no idea. You really can't anticipate like the craziness and scope. Yeah, but it was like super interesting, and we pulled it off somehow.
Oh my goodness. Did you take pictures of the actor? Like, before you go, let me take a picture so I can.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. It was like just chasing. It's just like, don't leave, don't change, hold on, come here, don't touch your hair, don't take anything off. And like, especially when they're bloody, they like can't wait to take a shower or start cleaning their face. And also for makeup purposes, like you need to take a picture of every single detail. So it's a lot to ask for the actors to not like have that instinct to go wash off, but also it's me and one other person with a bunch of bloody ass people, and just like chasing them down and don't take your clothes, don't take my clothes. Anyway,
And from the outside looking in, I'm sure like, you know, like over the course of like 3 days or shooting kind of the same day, and just like having to like have serious conversations on where poop is on someone's face, you know, to match
Yeah.
the poop from the day before.
Yeah.
You're like, this is why I went to grad school. You know?
The problem with taking the pictures were they just kept using disposable cameras, so it took forever to get the film back. You know.
Yeah, the PA was just developing film that whole time.
Yeah, we got, you know, somehow got a PA from the 90s to come work on.
Yeah.
Not all Blaine's Land,
Polaroid
guys.
is for.
We had one trip that was just a dark room.
Wow.
Like, that wasn't a PA, that was just a random bystander with a camera.
that was just the acid, man.
Oh, Carrie Scribner asked, long shot, by any chance to get Larry Gone Demon and Uncle Peckerhead on DVD or Blu-ray?
Oh my God! What a brilliant segue! I feel like my mom got planted in that chat room to ask that question.
Hi, Miss Lawrence.
The film is going to be distributed on August 7th. It'll hit theaters depending on the COVID situation, but on August 11th, we're hitting video on demand. And then a couple weeks after, we're going to have an official Blu-ray release. And that Blu-ray release will have a commentary with all 4 of us and Shiloh, Ryan Conrath, doing a very special commentary, but it also will have Jeff's music video, which kind of has the Duh World kind of baked into it, as well as Larry Gone Demon, and a couple other fun kind of little treats for sickos and weirdos. Yeah, can't wait.
That's rad. How did you cast the rest of the characters, like Judy's character and Mel and?
I mean, so
yeah, and my say.
What's up?
Your star? What happened? You froze for a second.
When it came to Judy and Mel, Chet and Ruby, they're kind of like underground comedian, kind of New York staples. And I had actually I had seen Chet perform before, and I wanted her to read for the part. And she did, and she absolutely murdered it. And then her agent also managed Ruby. So he's like, hey, you have to check out. And I'd heard Ruby's name before. So they came on much like David. Like it's really one of the first films where, even though I am casting, I like my grandmother's in that first scene in the bakery, and I'm casting a lot of my friends. Like Ryan is like my best friend from school that I had known a decade. Like he's not a traditional actor. But this is also the first time that we did kind of like, for me, an extensive like casting of people I didn't know, specifically in kind of those big roles.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. It's really nice to when, I mean, obviously you wouldn't have the same movie if all these things didn't come together, and it's always just incredible to hear the stories of how, you know, so somebody was cast at the last minute or brought in 2 days before they started filming, things like that. So
I mean, it's
the chemistry of the cast was great.
Yeah, I mean, what is amazing is like, you know, the reason why I would cast my friends is I'm like, I know that they all get along and they feel comfortable with each other. So even if they're not traditionally or trained actors, I know I can get kind of what I'm looking for. But when especially like Chet, Ruby, David, and Jeff didn't know each other prior to coming into kind of our final reading and casting session. And immediately when they were all together, it like there's not much of a difference in a good way. Like they kind of clicked in immediately. That like, especially like when you're really deciding like, am I going all in on this thing? When you see that, you're like, oh, okay. Like I have such a good feeling that like this so works. Like I can see. And they what's so crazy is like, I'm sure Jeff can talk to this. And David, is that they were like a touring band during production. They would ride in the van. Jeff would drive the van to and from set, and they would like eat their meals together and like, you know, stop for coffee in the mornings and shit like that.
Nice. Do you still all keep in touch?
Yeah, totally. That was my, yeah.
Oh
definitely.
yeah.
You know,
yeah.
and that was my that was my van, my old van in the movie. And so, yeah, I mean, David and I lived together the whole time. We roomed together. And so, you know, we became friends that way. But also, yeah, it was like I was driving us all around every day. And we would meet, David and I would wake up, maybe get a coffee on the way in or something, and go scoop Chet and Ruby up. And really, the whole time, that's how we traveled, is, you know, in the van. And we're like, we are really, you know, I mean, that helped build. It wasn't like a team building exercise. It just is the way it was. And
it did happen.
Yeah, it happened. And it felt, you know, we were like, this does feel like we're on tour, because, you know, we would move a couple times a day, sometimes drive to a couple hours, you know, to New York, and then turn around, come back. So,
and Jeff would like turn us on to new music, and I mean, three of the funniest people in the world, I think, are Jeff Riddle, Ruby, and Ryan. And when they would be together, even any combination of those people, and I would be wetting my pants. They're just so fun to be around.
Thank you, David. I love you, man.
Talk about some of the effects that you had to pull off, like the just blood spraying on all your actors, and then you know, Larry Gone Demon. Larry comes into the kitchen and it's like, "Here's your rent," and he, you know, slaps the shit on the table. And then there's a scene, and you know, Uncle Peckerhead unleashes on the rival band. So it seems like that's a thing that's like a go-to thing for you. Maybe.
Scatological humor. Ever heard of that?
Yeah, my
what
therapist
was that
and I
made
talk
out
about this
of?
extensively. Yeah, I mean, for me, like when I was kind of conceptualizing the film and thinking, like one thing I wanted to do, and like one of the reasons why we decided to kind of make the movie, despite not really kind of having a solid plan on how to get it exactly to the finish line, is I had gone to like some festivals, not Portland Horror, but like some festivals that didn't seem to have like a lot of features that had kind of like a madcap, like crazy energetic joy to kind of the filmmaking. And not everything doesn't have to be Evil Dead or like something like that, but like it just seemed to kind of be devoid of any fun. And like, especially at a film festival, like I'm looking to have like an audience experience. Like I'm spending 10 hours in a theater, you know, a day. I want to have fun. And that's why, like, when I was thinking of like these moments in the movie, I was like, I want like something that I would lose my mind over. Like my mind would melt if I saw this stuff. And that's why, like, having like a metalhead's, you know, head ripped off, or like, you know, the real villain of the movie getting like just annihilated with diarrhea. I'm like, you know, I remember the producers, you know, were just like, that might be a bridge too far. Like, just rethink it, think it through, because like we don't want to be kind of the poopy movie, and you know, you're just like, man, you want to give the audience just kind of like a batshit experience where they're just kind of like grinning at how kind of, you know, bonkers and nihilistic and crazy it is.
Awesome.
Yeah, I remember Matt said, "I'm the director. This is my movie, and I want the shit." You know,
and
you
of
asked
course,
if this was his opus. He made us call him Mr. Holland on set. That answers your question.
And of course, I had only read my audition scene, and as I'm reading the full script, I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
and I get to this point, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I just, you know, yeah. So, like, I called them and I said, like, I'm not sure about this. I have a feeling if my career goes anywhere, like when I die, the scene that they will play on CNN and on, you know, Entertainment Tonight will be me pulling my pants down and pooping all over another dude, you know. No thanks.
The Oscar Emporium is just David.
Don't worry about that, dude. Hologram technology would be great by then. We'll just do that at your funeral.
We shot that scene in my apartment in Brooklyn, and my apartment, which my sister was living at, and I had to go before we shot the scene to my downstairs neighbors and be like, hey, I just want to warn y'all that we're shooting a film. Don't get scared. You're going to hear a lot of screaming. It's cool. It's just a movie. And they were like, okay. Anyway, at the end of the shoot, like at 2 a.m, we're coming down the stairs with like bloody mattresses, with like buckets of like filth. And my downstairs neighbor, who I didn't know at the time is like this big photographer for like the New York Times or whatever, had taken a picture of like this craziness. It's like a bucket that says thick poop, green vomit, light poop, and a bloody mattress. And he like posted it on his Twitter. And I came downstairs and he's like, oh, like Seth Rogen says this and this, and all of these people like had seen this picture, and everybody's like, well, what are they doing? Like, and he's like, oh, my neighbors say that they're shooting a horror film, and they're like, sure. Because there was like all the stuff, like all the bloody stuff looked like real blood, and they were so, the neighborhood was like, what the hell is going on in this apartment?
So what's your poop formula? Everyone always talks about the blood formula.
Like we were going to jail for that.
It's the Colonel's secret recipe. I don't think Jared would share that with us. I've been searching for a thick poop recipe for years, and
I got a good one. I'll give it to you.
Oh,
God.
My grandma's recipe.
11 herbs and spices.
Yeah.
oh, Lord.
and then just the fact, I guess when they get to so that happens, and then they go to the venue, and they still haven't showered or changed their clothes or anything.
Which is much like how touring is.
That's punk.
Like didn't even Febreze themselves or anything.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Is there somebody asked, was any sort of soundtrack recorded with Dawes music? Because I would absolutely listen. Is that something we can look for?
Well,
somewhere down the
we're
road?
working on it. I actually recorded, so I just recorded a new record, but I did record some of those songs professionally too. So yeah, we'll see. I'd love to do something. We'd love to do a soundtrack, or like honestly, it'd be rad to press like a 7-inch, like a 7-inch would be really cool.
Yeah, like
And
Mondo, Waxwork Records, call us up. Let's make it happen.
Also, shout out to Augusta, who did Judy's voice, and Jeff, you should talk about her because
So Augusta's like my sister. We're really good friends, and she was in a band called Kaitana. She is in a band called Gladdy now, and she did the singing voice for Judy.
Okay.
And my friend Bill played drums. Who was in my band? He played drums for the recording as well.
Okay.
So shout out to y'all.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if Chet did her own singing vocals.
She did
But you
not.
just
But
answered that.
she actually took bass lessons. So that's actually, I mean, obviously we used a pre-recorded track, but she's actually playing the bass. I mean, both of them took lessons for like at least 3 or 4 weeks, a few days a week, just to learn those songs. Because neither of them had experience, and they actually would be able to play for like a nice clip, like a minute to a minute and a half of the track. So
Nice. That's
Yeah.
And that's such a testament to Judy, to Chet's like just performance and her ability as an actress to look like she's actually singing and to look like she's like a part of this world where she's not really like a punk or like a singer. Yeah, I think it's so cool.
Yeah, everything like the performances, especially. I was wondering, like, did they all play that music? Because it looks really natural. It's really well done.
I mean, I was one of the things that I wanted to do is I knew, like, I wanted to have comedic performers because I think that's the easiest way to have the scenes really kind of like soar in terms of like, you know, the performance. But I was really worried because there's so few movies where you see people performing music where it seems real and it doesn't seem like so eye rolling and terrible. And so you're really sensitive to those things. And I knew with Jeff it would be easy because he's been playing for decades. But with Chet and Ruby, it was because just their dedication to learning and really kind of immersing themselves, like especially with both of them, like they asked for videos of like what type of performative, like what should we watch, like who are we kind of emulating in terms of like our performance. So I would send them like old punk videos of like X performing, or like stuff like that. And I think they really like it went above and beyond in kind of selling themselves as kind of like real musicians.
Yeah, and we just, we were blasting punk music in the van on the way to and from locations, and just on that, I think on the first day, the first song that's in the movie kind of set the tone. I remember they were a little nervous because they had not, played on stage before, and we sort of had a powwow, and I was like, guys, this is punk rock. You don't have to be good. Just have a good time. Really, don't worry about, I mess up all the time. I was like, just have a good time. And that when we started doing it, I just remember Matt and I looking at each other and being like, they're crushing it. And that kind of just continued for the rest of the movie, so yeah.
One thing I have to say that I haven't mentioned in any of these is it might be my very, very favorite scene, but certainly very high up, is there's a shot where Jeff is leaning into the amp, and his body language is so different, like when he doesn't have a guitar strapped to him, and then he leans into that amp and just starts vibrating, and it's just like he fucking comes alive. And I love that scene so much.
That's like Max's inner, he's got the stage fright, he's scared, he's just the little boy. And like his sisters, it's kind of like, Mel and Judy are like protecting him, but when they all hit the stage, they're all kind of like a different, like a force on stage. So we tried to
all
really
of that, and you're not even facing the
No.
I think you're saying you're not even facing the camera, but I totally agree. Yeah.
Well, so great. We should probably wrap up. Is there anything else you want to mention or shout out before we take it off?
I mean, I really do want to thank everyone who watched the movie and everyone who sat in on the Q&A. And I want to thank Portland Horror for continuing to champion the work of independent and micro budget productions. It really means a lot that y'all watched, and if you did watch and you liked it, if you can post or even just tell a friend that would love the movie, would really help us out. Because again, August 7th, hopefully some theaters, limited theatrical, but then August 11th we're going on VOD, all VOD platforms. But I mean, it really is, folks that watch movies through Portland Horror, and just people that love on movies like this that will allow us to make more, which would be a dream.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We often say that we have the greatest audience in the world, and I think it's true. I don't know, it's something about the Portland water, or maybe it's the Portland water falling from the sky all the time that makes them enthusiastic about watching movies. But they will, and we frequently hear them go, "Oh my God, that was my favorite movie of the year." They'll list movies they saw at the festival among, what you think of as mainstream horror films. Like I loved, The Witch, and what was it? Somebody mentioned Happy Hunting were my favorite things of the year. Oh, well, Happy Hunting, that was one that you really had to see with us. And they'll advocate for
and they'll talk
horror.
about them like a couple of years later. They're like, whatever happened to you? Do you know anything about that filmmaker that made Larry Gone Demon?
Yeah, and it really did mean a lot. It meant a lot that you guys remembered even Larry Gone Demon, because it feels like a long time ago. But it means a lot that people remember, we've always been kind of a scrappy operation, and the fact that people really enjoyed the movie, it just means the world.
SubtleTrex.com.
SubtleTrex.com. You can learn about all of our future projects and about more about the movie.
Perfect.
And can we also follow David and Jeff on social media that they might want to share?
Jeffrey, David.
Sure. Yeah. My personal thing is just this is hell. I'm in hell on Instagram with periods between every word. And then my band is called $500, and you can find that just $500 everywhere.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you.
And I'm a Twitter Luddite, so I'm not really. Yeah, I can't seem to make that work. But I'm on Instagram at Dave Litt. So say hello.
Nice. Well, excellent. Thank you guys. Thank you all for all the watchers, viewers for
Thank you, everybody.
being here and hanging
Yes,
out. and
thank you for
asking
watching.
questions.
Yeah, this was so fun.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here with us, even though it's weird. But
So weird, but we need this. So thank you.
Yes. So thank you.
thanks so much. Now
All right,
I'm going to
guys.
disappear again to turn everything off.
He is gonna go.
All right.
Pop
Take
out.
care.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Miss you guys.
Bye. Goodbye, Portland.
Hopefully, we'll be able to, be in person together someday. Get to
Fingers
meet you in
crossed.
person.
Totally. Take care.